Welcome back to Closet Cosplay, the podcast where we help you create con-worthy cosplays on a closet budget. I'm Michelle.
And I'm LJ. And today we are starting our final episode of the year.
Woo! Last episode of 2020.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy it's been this long since we started doing this, but this will be our final episode. So what we're going to end up doing is we're actually going to make some predictions for some cosplays that we might see in the coming year, because hopefully, everything willing, we can get back to some sort of normalcy. Maybe by the summer and fall, you might see some cons starting to open up, because I think most of the spring ones have still been canceled from what I understand.
Yeah, well, around us anyways. Maybe not around you, but...
Yeah, maybe not around you, if you are so lucky.
We got the announcement that one of our local Memphis cons has canceled. I think that's typically in May, and so...
Oh, yeah.
That was sad.
Yeah, but we still think, not only, even if cons are still canceled, people are still very into cosplaying on things like TikTok and posting online and in their cosplay groups and stuff like that. But I think that you will still see maybe some cons open up in the fall. So we were kind of thinking like, what would people be cosplaying as?
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that first stuck out in my head is, well, everything that you didn't get to see this year, you're going to see next year.
That's so true. Like, if people didn't have the opportunity to walk around a con as a character they loved this year, then I assume that they're saving it or they're, like, enhancing it.
Right, because the thing is, it's just like anything else. There will be trends, and those typically follow along what is popular in the culture at the time. So when I think of things that were, like, popular, say, at the end of 19 or early 2020, like... I remember being really into The Witcher when it came out on Netflix, and if you haven't seen or played The Witcher games, I love them. I'm a huge fan of them, so obviously I was like, oh, Yennefer, my girl, which she's depicted differently in the show, but that gives people a lot of range. You can do something from the games, you could do something from the show, and you're going to be topical. So I think in this coming year, you might actually see some of the older versions, especially from like the Netflix shows, since people didn't get to really do those things.
Right.
Another one, I think, just thinking of Netflix still, is I actually just recently watched She-Ra, the animated cartoon on Netflix, and I absolutely just fell in love with that show, and I binged all 5 seasons at once.
Nice. As you do.
As I do, which I wasn't expecting that at all, because it looks like a fairly, kiddie sort of show, and I don't typically like those kind of things, but it was surprisingly nuanced, and especially from a cosplay perspective, the costumes are very simple, but very recognizable, which means that they would be very accessible to somebody who's just getting into cosplay and still wants to be recognizable, and especially since it's geared more towards a younger adult sort of thing, and that typically tends to be what you would see at a convention.
Right.
It's probably going to be a pretty popular costume. There are bodysuits or simple capes, or, especially the main character, She-Ra, her costume was loosely inspired by Revolutionary Girl Utena, which was like an old manga that I fell in love with. So it like hits on the whole like girl swordsman thing, which I absolutely love that trope. So I think you'll see that. And then,
I have a question. Let me
sure.
pause you for a second. Okay, so is She-Ra, this new animated cartoon, a remake?
Yes, so it's using the same characters from the 80s cartoon.
Right.
Which is funny because, and this isn't really a spoiler, at one point they wear costumes that look extremely like the way the costumes used to look in the old 80s cartoon, cute. And they make fun of it, and it's a nice little nod.
Nice.
But I absolutely loved it, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it, even if you don't think it's your thing.
You know what else? They brought back Animaniacs.
Yes.
Recently. Have you watched it?
I haven't.
I just remember I was talking to a friend recently, and she said, I loved Dot when I was younger, like the character Dot. She's like, I had a Dot jumper, I dressed up as Dot, and I was like, that would be a cute trio.
It would, and it's very simple. So
yes.
That's another thing. Animaniacs just came out. You might see a triplet cosplay with those characters. That's a really good point.
I love the fun, like, simple group cosplays, because it's like, if you have more people around you that are of the same, cartoon or show or whatever it is, it's just like, if people have seen it, it's like immediately recognizable. So instead of you walking in like as just Dot, if you have like Yakko and the whole crew, then
you
you're
give context to your costume.
Yes, you give context to it, and it's always fun. I love to see the group run around.
Yeah, me too.
Like when you did oh my gosh, I'm losing it.
I don't know.
Hades and all that.
The Persephone and Hades.
Yeah. You had all of you together, like. immediately people like ran up to you, were like, "As a group of you, like we got to get photos, we got to do this," because it's like you've got so many of you
right.
together.
And so it's like, I know we've touched on this before, but there are times that, you can have a costume, you are wearing the costume, but you may not be as immediately recognizable, and then you're surrounded by other people from that same series, and
Right.
suddenly, like, because, like, we got together, and people just stopped and started taking photographs, and it was a really cool experience. And I think you'll actually, speaking of the Lore of Olympus stuff, I think you're going to see more and more people cosplaying that, too, because, like, I've looked at the numbers on that comic, and it just keeps going up and up and up of people who are paying attention to it. And Jim Henson is producing an animated version.
What?
Yeah, they're gonna.
Oh, that's cool.
So I think, especially like not only this year, but in the next couple of years, when that finally gets pushed out, you're gonna see a ton of Lore of Olympus cosplays.
Did you watch The Dark Crystal when it came out?
I did. It was very good.
I loved it.
It
I
was
was
very
so
good.
sad when it got canceled.
I know.
Like devastated because I loved it.
I know. I loved it too. I loved the original, and so when they did the remake and it was so true to form, I was really happy with it. But it, just like anything else on Netflix,
It comes and goes.
it gets canceled because they realize that the majority of money that they get is when people subscribe for new content. And so that's why you start to see this trend of shows being canceled after only a couple of seasons, because they're not making as much money because people have already seen it.
Huh.
Just to get on a little tangent.
No, I mean, I think that's really interesting.
So I always try to tell people now, I'm like, don't get invested with
Yeah.
a Netflix original, because unless it's already completely produced, you're probably not going to see it continued more than a couple of seasons.
I wish you had told me that, before I got obsessed with the things I'm obsessed over.
I think luckily, I don't know if She-Ra was done as a Netflix original, but it completed. It's 5 seasons, and it was really, really good for that. Another show I think you'll probably see a bunch of, not on Netflix, is The Mandalorian, which
yes,
I have not seen.
Super popular show, honestly, and I have myself am not. And I'm just gonna put this out there. I'm not the hugest fan of Star Wars. I like Star Wars, but I'm not like 100% like all in. I'm the hugest Star Wars fan in the universe. Like, I've enjoyed it. I've watched all of Star Wars, and it's good. And The Mandalorian is so wonderful. Like, I really love it. I really love it. And a lot of people I know that are not even like the biggest fans of Star Wars really enjoy The Mandalorian. And so I think it just has this like really great appeal to it. It's shot really well. It just has this great acting. It's just fun. Has these little like adventures that they go on, and it's just like fun to go along with. It's a chill show to watch. Like, you can kind of watch one, and I mean it does tell a story. It goes along with each other, but like you can sit down, watch an episode, and like I don't think you have to binge it. Like, you can binge it. It's totally bingeable, but like you can just enjoy it. Yeah. And it's nice to have a show like that. And there's so many good cosplay opportunities.
Really?
Like, especially if you want to get into like armor work.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mandalorian by himself, like his armor, I mean, that would be an undertaking. But I mean, if you've had all year sitting in your house, like trying to make a cosplay, this would be the year to make the Mandalorian.
True. And Star Wars is one of those franchises that even if you don't want to make it yourself, I guarantee you there's somebody out there making that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I see it all the time. As many people as I've seen wear Stormtrooper outfits and all the variations thereof. Like, it's wild. While I'm not necessarily a Star Wars person either, I've heard very good things about The Mandalorian. And the thing that I immediately, just because I don't know much about it, is when I look The Mandalorian and the Baby Yoda, I'm immediately like, plushie! You can use a plushie!
Get a Baby Yoda plushie, or like they make the little animatronic little like
do they
Baby Yoda toy, I think, something like that you could carry around. I think that would be such just a fun thing.
Are there other characters besides the Mandalorian you think that people would like gravitate towards?
I'm sure there are, and I know that like there are plenty of characters in there that like there are so many minor characters that have like great costuming that I think would be a fun option, especially if you do that whole like group cosplay and it's like, okay, you have somebody that's a Mandalorian, there's your like recognizable person, and then you could literally do any slew of like side characters or babysitters, or anybody that was around Baby Yoda at any point, or anybody on the Empire side, anybody like on this side, and like it could just be a fun like photo op. It could be a fun like group walk, and so I think you could really just grab anybody from that, and as long as you have like a Baby Yoda in your hand,
people are gonna know
what you're from, no matter which character you're doing, I think.
I think that's fair. And so I think because we didn't get those cons this year, I think you're going to see a lot of Mandalorian. Plus, I don't think it's even complete, right? Like or the finale just happened or something.
Yeah, I think the finale just happened. I haven't seen it yet.
So it's pretty good timing. I would be surprised if it was forgotten so quickly, considering its reception and the fact that it's just Star Wars in general.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, you'll see classics, and this kind of leads into my next kind of thought about the whole 2021. Star Wars is a classic. You'll see all variations of Star Wars all the time, but there's also some staples that I think you'll still see. Stuff like basically anything Marvel.
Yes.
You're still gonna see a lot of, not only because they're very well-known popular characters, but because a lot of them can be played with bodysuits, especially like Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, stuff like that. Joker, or not Joker, Harley, although I think you'll probably see some Joker stuff too.
Right.
Especially because I don't think a ton of people got to cosplay the newest version of the Joker, because that came out in 2019.
Well, and Birds of Prey, like the newest version of Harley, I've seen almost become like more popular. So when you see like an older version of Harley, you're just like, oh my gosh, somebody did it different, and you're thinking like, well, that's the original, but it's fun to see them like next to each other taking photos. This new one and this new version and the old version, and like that's a lot of fun. And I love that play when people do that.
Yeah, when there's all the different versions of it. I think so. I think you'll still see a ton of Harley, a ton of Marvel. I think you'll see anything that requires a bodysuit, like Diva from Overwatch.
Diva from Overwatch is a super
very popular one. You're not really going to go wrong with that.
And the cool thing about Overwatch too is like they keep coming out with all these skins, right?
Yeah.
So it's like even if you've done like the original Diva bodysuit and like now you want to change it up and do like a different popular skin of Diva.
Right.
And like you've got like the wig, the makeup, the headphones, whatever, and you just get a different bodysuit that's come out or you do it differently. Like I think that's such a fun take.
Some people don't even necessarily do. One of the things that I've seen a lot of people doing recently is just, casual Friday Diva or like lingerie Diva, like anything like that, where it's like you have the base components of the character that are readable and people recognize, and so you pretty much wear anything and say it's da-da-da Diva.
Oh my
character.
Gosh. On that line of like Marvel being huge, like Disney in general, like the Disney Princess franchise is something like a lot of people have done.
I've seen
Disney
more and more
princesses
people cosplay
different
Disney.
ways.
Yeah. And of course, I feel like we didn't really get to see a bunch of Frozen cosplays because that sort of came out at that same time.
The new Frozen, like where they have pants under their dresses.
Looks great.
The best.
Looks great. Yeah. So I would be shocked if I didn't see at least one or two people cosplay as that, because that's another thing. Frozen 2 came out right at the beginning of everything starting, so we know nobody's really gotten to see that yet, so that'll be really interesting.
Have you seen the cross where the cosplayers did like the Disney princesses and like Star Wars stormtrooper helmets or something, or Mandalorian helmets? No. It's amazing, and they're like holding tridents or something crazy. They look like
so
warriors.
Funny. Well, they do all sorts. It's even a meme at this point of like what Disney princesses if they were John Deere tractors or something like that.
It's like amazing. What would be a fun one? Do like all the Disney princesses as mermaids, like Ariel.
Yeah.
Like get yourself the mermaid tails.
I think
like
I've even
that would
seen
be
that art.
Super cute. Have you seen it? Like I would love if somebody did that. I think that would be so fun.
No, one of the trends from years ago was doing the hipster Disney princesses.
Yes.
Which I thought was really cute.
Super cute with the glasses.
Yeah.
And,
and I haven't seen anything necessarily like trending like that. And the thing about it is like trends like that usually spawn off of some sort of like art meme, which is what the Disney princesses one spawned off of. And I haven't really seen like a ton. What I have seen is people using character cosplays as a way to recreate memes. Like one of the ones that I always see is like Aquaman and the girl, his love interest from that, and then like Mermaid Boy or whatever. Yeah. Like, the jealous girlfriend meme of doing something like that. So those are always really funny to see, like people recreate like memes that you see online as characters in the cosplay. That's really fun. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a lot more of that in the coming year, because that seems to be just a general trend, is just recreating memes.
Well, I think the cool thing about like recreating memes or taking art pieces and being inspired to do cosplay from art pieces is like, if people have been putting more art and fan art and things like that out like this year and drawing more, it's just like, I mean, one of my favorite cosplays I ever did was off an artist's interpretation of a character.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so specific, but if somebody's seen that specific art piece, they're like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing. That's so different, and like you pulled it off, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I actually just recently saw someone did, and I can't remember the artist's name, but she does a lot of like Art Nouveau versions of popular characters, and she had done one of Megara from the Hercules cartoon in this like gorgeous
one of my
purple like
favorite characters.
Oh no, I love her too. And so she like, you know, it's in this beautiful purple toga with all this intricate gold filigree, and somebody did a cosplay off of it, and it was gorgeous. And so like I think that might be a trend that's coming up too, is just more of like taking these artist interpretations of existing characters that play up this sort of intricacy.
Yeah.
And honestly, that I think is going to be a coming trend in general. When I go out there and I look at a bunch of the cosplays that people are making, or the shows or games or animes that are of interest, they're not like, we kind of go through these trends of like, we like these very serious dystopian like blacks and grays and, you know, Advent children style clothing where everything's very serious and dour. But I think a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing is very colorful, it's very vibrant, it's very intricate and elaborate. And I think that might just be us as a collective consciousness being like, we have been stuck in the house all day long. And this is a phenomenon that they've pretty well tracked across different cultural time periods. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, you know, World War II, musicals became very popular because they were a way to sort of escape like this harsh reality. And I think that like when I look at the stuff that's popular right now, like Genshin Impact, is like an open world action RPG that's growing in popularity very quickly, which I think is a cosplay that you're going to see. And the outfits are, you know, these beautiful, bright, colorful, very intricate patterned things with filigree and like hats and, you know, weapons and all sorts of stuff like that. And then like, you know, we've already touched on Hades before, and all of the character designs in Hades are very colorful, and they have a lot of detail to them, and they're very elaborate. And I think those would be very difficult to create, but I would absolutely kill to see somebody do like Nyx, and we actually have one coming up at some point where we'll be discussing a suggestion from Megara.
There you go.
From Hades.
Do you think that you know, this idea of like casual cosplay will like catch on at cons? Because I know a lot of times at cons people do like the serious cosplays, like they've sewn it, they've built it, they've, you know, worked it out, they've been working on it for months and months and months to bring it to a con. But like I almost think it's like Disney bounding is what I think of, or like where you're towing the line of like you might could get recognized for that character by using like the colors or the patterns or like a bag or a plushie or something like simplistic to just like nod at it.
I think
at cons,
I think most people do those things already, but they're typically not your main convention costume.
Yeah.
So that's like your Friday night costume or your Sunday morning costume. Saturday typically is your like
bring out all the stops.
Yeah, that's your big one that you wear. And that's typically at least how I've treated it and how I've known other people to treat it.
Yeah.
So I would be really interested to see, because I think the Disney bounding is getting really popular. I think simplicity in a way that is recognizable and still clever is popular, because
that's so fun to me when I can see somebody like pointedly like make it obvious and it be like very minimalistic, or like they did it with pieces they already had.
Yeah, and you're just
and
like,
I'm like, that amazes me, and that's the kind of stuff I love, is just to get like the simplest, like, stripped down way to get it and then make it like recognizable with like a little accessory or a little thing, and like that's so fun to me.
So I think one of the that made me think of one of the other things that you might see coming up is a bunch of cyberpunk cosplay, because cyberpunk just came out,
right?
But that is a very easily approachable cosplay. You could literally wear anything, and you could have like, they have like very specific lines that show that they're like an android or something, or you wear different contacts,
or like the crazy goggles looking,
or you
stuff.
get like just like certain sorts of things that are in the game already, or like have a jacket that says Lizzie's Bar on the back, and like people will recognize who you're from. But that, because it is more of a genre type of game, I think you could do a lot with it, unless, you know, even with the very specific characters in that game, they're fairly open to interpretation. I really love that there's this one character whose name I can't remember because I've just started the game, and I apologize to anybody who's on the PS4 right now. I'm playing it on the PC, so I'm having no issues, but my heart goes out to you. But like she has like this neat blue haircut, and then she's got like this sparkly sequenced dress with like this one coat with a big fur collar on it. And it's actually like that is literally you could find all of those items on Amazon. I guarantee it. And like it would be a very simple costume and instantly recognizable because it's one of the primary characters at the beginning of the game, at least so far.
Yeah, love that. I mean, that's the thing. Go back to our steampunk versus cyberpunk episode. We have a lot of stuff in there about like how do you differentiate between steampunk, cyberpunk? Like what are the little details you can do to make it read like that's a cyberpunk look?
Yeah, and there's and people thought that the character creation was going to be a lot more robust in Cyberpunk 2077, which it ended up being pretty minimal. But from a cosplay perspective, that means that like there's only a certain set of things, and if you really want to read as being specifically from this game, you will pick those options. And because there are so few options, they will be more closely associated to this very specific game. So I'm pretty sure we'll see plenty of Cyberpunk 2077, even despite all of the controversy right now.
Even more reason to go at it, you know?
Yeah, and because I guarantee you some people will be like, Cyberpunk 27, what do you think about them getting pulled from Sony?
There's a discussion right there.
There's a discussion from that. One last thing I think that you'll probably see, and I know, Michelle, you're not super acquainted with this, but League of Legends, a video game, has a fake... I even hesitate to say fake at this point, but they have an alternate universe version of their characters that... or like 4 of their characters that are in a K-pop band, or 5 of their characters that are in a K-pop band, and they originally years ago did like one song for them, and it was extremely popular, and you saw these characters played like all the time. I remember like especially Akali from KDA is extremely popular, and I see her all the time, and I bring it up again because they just recently released a new version of this band with an additional character and new outfits and like 5 new songs, and they slap. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. There's some bops. Like, I've been listening to that music, and they're really good because they actually use like real K-pop singers from established bands and like some of the top dance studios and stuff like that. And so considering how popular they were when they first came out, I absolutely guarantee that when these cons start up again, you're going to see these new versions of the characters, and especially since they added another one. And she's extremely, and what's interesting about this newest one that they've added, she's had some controversy. Her name is Seraphine. When they initially started showing this character, they gave her like a Twitter, and like she was just like this girl, and it was all drawn, and she was like, wanting like listening to music or like petting her cat, and it was like this whole like fake parasocial relationship sort of thing. And it sort of like went her journey from being just like a indie kind of singer to being like part of this huge K-pop band. And so she has like 3 or 4 different costumes that track her progression from girl with a sweater and acoustic guitar to like mid-level magical girl K-pop to like superstar.
How wild would it be to do a group cosplay of each stage of that
Wouldn't
journey?
That be cute?
That would be wild. You want to know something? Fun fact? My original D&D character, when I first started playing D&D in college, was named Seraphine.
Oh, really?
No lie.
That's so funny. Yeah, so she's so her hair goes from like pink to like pinky blue to like teal with a little pink. And so like you could literally pick, if you want to play this character, you could pick from the most simple to like the most complicated version.
That would be, I love when somebody could take a cosplay, like their stages of a character, like Critical Role, which I absolutely love. They'll do like their original look, and then they'll do them at level 10, and then they'll do them like fully
cute.
So they'll just take their cosplay, and just like up it and up their game and up their game. And I think that's like something that you could do with that.
Like
you
the
could
same
start
idea.
Here and take a picture and like have a con in the simple, form, and just like advance it over time. And I think that's such a fun thing to do.
I think it is too. I think that would be really cool. And even if you wanted to do like, let's say you were at one of the big cons, or like a 3-day con, you could literally do all 3 of her costumes.
Boom. Like done. You gotta
day 1, day 2, day 3. And I think that would be really cool. So like I really think I'm gonna see a lot of KDA stuff in the coming year. I really loved Evelyn's outfit is my favorite. It's a little skin showy for me personally, but I would love to see somebody cosplay, and they're fairly simple. I'll say that. They do require like a very specific kind of fabric, which I think would be, it's like almost iridescent tealy blue, but with blacks and stuff like that. But I think it'll be good. I'll be interested to see if I'm right on any of this.
You know, this is just our final episode of 2020. We've got, you know, hopefully many more episodes in front of us. So maybe by the end of December 2021, we can come back to our 2020
That's
predictions
true.
and say, like, we were so wrong. Or, hey, maybe we were right. So
I'll either be pleasantly surprised or right, and I win either way.
there you go. Honestly, like, we'll have fun with it either way. So, guys, we have so enjoyed recording this podcast for you, over a year now?
Yeah, it's been over a year at this point.
And it's been a blast. And, I mean, there's been a lot that's been rough about 2020, but there's been a lot of good times, too. And we're just really grateful for you guys. And want to thank you for being on this journey with us. And hope you the best new year.
Absolutely. And we will see you on the other side.
Bye, guys.
Bye.